حلفائنا جاهزين يتدخلوا إذا كان في حرب إبادة لغزة.
זהו השלב השני של המלחמה שמטרותיה ברורות. Israel will not agree to a cessation of hostilities with Hamas after the horrific attacks of October 7th.
We will not stop working until every hostage is returned to their loved ones. For weeks, I've been advocating a pause in the fighting for two purposes: to increase the assistance getting into the Gaza civilians who need help, and to facilitate release of hostages.
Our security and the prospects of peace in the Middle East depend on one thing: total victory over Hamas. אנחנו ממשיכים במלחמה בכל החזיתות ובכל הגזרות. אנחנו לא נותנים חסינות לאף מחבל, לא בעזה, לא בלבנון, לא בסוריה ולא בשום מקום. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bible says that there is a time for peace and a time for war. This is a time for war for our common future. בלתי מעורב שנפגע זה טרגדיה, אצל חמאס זה אסטרטגיה, זה כל ההבדל. והבטחתי להם שאני לא ארפה מן המאמץ להשאיר את כולם הביתה, את החיים ואת החללים, עד האחרון שבהם. אני אמשיך להילחם עד שנניף את דגל הניצחון.
É uma guerra entre soldados e soldados. É uma guerra entre um exército altamente preparado e mulheres e crianças.
President Silva has disgraced the memory of 6 million Jews murdered by the Nazis, and he's demonized the Jewish state like the most virulent anti-Semite. He should be ashamed of himself.
《中方呼吁召开更具权威性的国际和会，凝聚国际促和共识，推动巴勒斯坦问题早日得到全面、公正、持久解决。
The International Criminal Court in The Hague is contemplating issuing arrest warrants against senior Israeli government and military officials as war criminals. This would be an outrage of historic proportions. International bodies like the ICC arose in the wake of the Holocaust committed against the Jewish people. They were set up to prevent such horrors, to prevent future genocides. Yet now, the International Court is trying to put Israel in the dock. It's trying to put us in the dock as we defend ourselves against genocidal terrorists and regimes, Iran of course, that openly works to destroy the one and only Jewish state.
Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
I've got to ask him, as far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
אבל לפני כ4 חודשים חלה ירידה דרמטית באספקת החימושים שהגיעו מארצות הברית לישראל. במשך שבועות ארוכים פנינו לידידינו האמריקנים בבקשה להאיץ את המשלוחים.
Netanyahu'nun Batı'nın da rızasıyla savaşı bölgeye yayma planları, açık söylüyorum, büyük bir felakete yol açacaktır.
They actually sent death squads. They sent death squads here to murder a former Secretary of State and a former National Security Advisor. And as we recently learned, they even brazenly threatened to assassinate President Trump. But Iran understands that to truly challenge America it must first conquer the Middle East. And for this, it uses its many proxies, including the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas. Yet in the heart of the Middle East, standing in Iran's way, is one proud pro-American democracy, my country, the State of Israel.
What has happened in Gaza over the past 9 months is devastating. The images of dead children and desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety, sometimes displaced for the second, third, or fourth time. We cannot look away in the face of these tragedies. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering, and I will not be silent.
No president has done what I've done for Israel, and we've always had a very good relationship. If we win, it'll be very simple. It's all going to work out and very quickly. If we don't, you're going to end up with major wars in the Middle East and maybe a third world war. You are closer to a third world war right now than at any time since the Second World War. You've never been so close because we have incompetent people running our country.
אני באתי לכאן היום למג'ר שמס יחד עם השייח מואפק טריף וראשי היישובים של מג'ר שמס ועין קיניה.
Since this war began, among a population of 2.2 million people, at least 39,000 Palestinians have been killed and 89,000 injured, 60% of whom are women, children, or elderly people. Most observers believe that the death toll is much higher because thousands of people remain buried under the mountains of rubble. Their bodies have not yet been recovered.
War in Gaza. President Biden and I are working around the clock because now is the time to get a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal done.
The entire Gaza Strip has been turned into ashes. The United Nations Security Council has done nothing to stop the carnage. Why? Because the United States and some other Western states have no regard for the lives of the people in our region and for the peace and stability in the Middle East.
There is nowhere in the Middle East Israel cannot reach. There's nowhere we will not go to protect our people and protect our country.